Good evening and welcome to this week's podcast for Platform Launchers. I'm John Stange, and this week we have a very special guest expert with us. We have my friend Ken Carfagno, and I'm going to tell you just a little bit about who Ken is and what Ken does. Ken is the owner of Carfagno Cleaning Incorporated, and he's also the host of the Smart Cleaning School podcast. You can find him at smartcleaningschool.com. And in addition to all these cool things that he's doing with his business and with his platform, he's just a cool guy. So you're going to see that as we have the opportunity to talk. But Ken, welcome to Platform Launchers. We're glad to have you with us today.
Thank you so much, John. I really appreciate the invite and having the no pressure of being in front of a lot of other people looking at me with this interview.
I know. Right before we started the interview here, I asked Ken if he had ever recorded a podcast interview before a live audience, because we have our members club live here on the call with us, and he said he's seen it done, but this is his first foray into actually, being before a live studio audience and doing this. But the reason that we brought Ken on tonight is because Ken does something that's unique. And it's an interesting take on how to use a platform that I was hopeful would be insightful and inspiring for our members club, but also for those who are listening to our podcast. Just the concept of blending a service-based business and an online platform, and what that looks like to blend service-based business work with an online platform. So we're going to delve into that in a little bit here. But before we delve into the topic of online platforms and service-based business and everything else, Ken, just to bring us up to date on everything going on in your life, please tell us about yourself and about the nature of your business.
Sure. So first and foremost, I'm a husband, almost 20 years, father of 5. Our kids range in age from 4 to 17. So one is still, kind of watching VeggieTales, and another one's driving around. So it is definitely an interesting dynamic in the home. We are a homeschooling family since day one. So if you were to catch me and say, well, what was your mission or your family kind of values coming into marriage? Well, we're a Christian family, and we always wanted to have mom home. We always wanted to have a life, plan a life where we would have dinners at home, like just something simple. We wanted to have dinners together. We always have valued reading. And so we always wanted to have nights free so we could read to our children and just grow up together with our kids. And a barrier to that was a lot of work. So there's always in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I'm a former engineer before I ever got into a career of cleaning. And there's always a story behind that. But how can I maximize, optimize? How can I take the thing that I have to do to create the thing that I want to be? How do I make that into something that can produce what I want? But then I also want the thing that I'm going to, toil for. And I heard the word stewarding in the pre-interview comments. We believe that any business that we run is not our business. It's all his, it's all God's business. And we believe that we are called to be stewards and manage everything that we are given to manage. And we want to operate as, it's actually the mission statement of our cleaning company, Carfagno Commercial Cleaning. We're a 10 talent company, and that's modeled after Matthew 25. So that's a quick baseline. Professionally, mechanical engineer out of Penn State and worked for GE. I was kind of picked to be a potential executive early on. So I was on a leadership program with GE. They groomed me quick and they burnt me out even quicker. So I was 23 and I met Jack Welch. I met the whole board of directors, and I was a big shot, but really wasn't. Within 2 years, I had already changed my mind about all the engineering that I thought I was going to be doing with my life. And the values that we had always had, they started really surfacing. Like, we need something different. And so we decided mom's going to stay home. We're going to homeschool. We want to instill the values we want. We want to instill entrepreneurship. And that's, we started getting into business on the side when I was still an engineer. And then it just kind of, a career evolved. Never once did we ever figure it out, and I still haven't. I think that's what's really amazing about what you're doing here, John, is that anyone can come onto this at any stage and learn something. A platform, it's evolving all the time, and with with everything changing out there, even the most experienced podcaster, like you and I will be at a conference, and here we are. There's podcast movement, and these guys, the hungriest to learn, are the ones with the biggest podcasts. It's so interesting. Like you, John, you've a huge podcast, a huge listenership, big platform. You're one of the hungriest guys that I see in a learning mode. And you're also one of the humblest guys. So you guys have a great leader here with Platform Launchers. You're blessed. So that's my quick story and background. Where do you want to go from here, sir?
Well, first of all, thanks for those kind comments. That was obviously very kind of you to say that, and I really do appreciate that. I'm going to follow up on one of the entrepreneurial comments that you made just a moment ago, but I'm going to save that for a second because I want you to give our members club here and those listening on the podcast kind of the high level view of your business and your platform. Like, what does it look like? Like what do you have going on? Just the basics of it. Cause I'll ask some deeper level questions here in a second, but what's the basics of it?
Okay. So the main business, Carfagno Commercial Cleaning, has evolved dramatically in the past 12 months. 1 year ago, I was the world expert in solo cleaning. Cleaning industry is a niche in of itself within the entrepreneur world. Within cleaning, most people grow teams. I was the guy that decided to stay by myself, but the engineer and the cleaner mixed, and I was able to create a career where I could work 2 days a week and make a full-time income. And based on that role, when I get onto groups and, hey, let me introduce myself and help out, they were very intrigued by that. That created an opportunity for coaching and to do a platform within my industry. That's where it started. In the past year, and some of you may have heard the interview that launched here recently with another Platform Launchers member, Mr. Josh Melton. And him and I did a follow-up interview on our Smart Cleaning School podcast. And it was 1 year, like what's happened in 1 year. So that was May of 2021. Today, Carfagno Cleaning Inc., as you opened here, that is still the corporation name. And I was 90% residential and a little bit of commercial. It's completely flipped. We have decided to go 100% all in on commercial/office cleaning. So we serve here in the Indian Valley of Pennsylvania, the suburbs of Philadelphia. So we're kind of in the Montgomery and part of Bucks County, central to upper Montgomery and like western Bucks, the Indian Valley. And so we serve small professional businesses that really do care about what the office looks like, the first impression, those type of companies. And we hire, and we have a team. We've been growing. I've not hired a year ago. We weren't hiring people. So now we're building a team with systems, and we're building a janitorial company with a goal eventually to be $1 million company. But really the purpose behind that is obviously there's goals involved for our own family. We want to have the time, the money, the location freedom to do the things we want to do. But there's also a tremendous heart and passion and desire to serve the community, to serve at a greater capacity. And when you start hiring people and you see how grateful they become for even giving them a part-time job that they love and they're making money at it, it's so fulfilling. So that's what's happening on the cleaning side of things. I used to be cleaning 100%. It was a grueling process. But in February of this year, our family was able to do something that we could never have imagined. And we took an entire month and we went and lived in just outside of Clearwater, Florida for the entire month of February and escaped the Pennsylvania winter. It was amazing. I saw many of you while you're in Florida. That just an experience like no other, experience of a lifetime. That was a goal we had set. We're so grateful that we could pull that off. Definitely wasn't on our own strength, that's for sure. A lot of prayer, a lot of work. The expression, sure. Pray like it, work like it's up to you, pray like it's up to God.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the
high level view. That's the overview. You would also use the word entrepreneurial, right? Just a few moments ago when you were talking about just the different things you're doing. And I'm curious, were you always entrepreneurial, or is that an aspect of your personality that developed over time?
Yes. And yes, absolutely. When I was 8 years old, I used to have these little notebooks that I would make my own inventions, Kenny's inventions. And I would draw out these amazing pictures. I had it all figured out. And the only person that noticed in my life was my grandfather. And he raised me like my dad. He was my dad. And he would see these things and like, oh, wow. Kenny, make me a promise. Like, yeah, anything pop up. And promise me that you're going to give me your first million. I said, okay, anything you say, you can have my first million. So that never, unfortunately, never got to happen. I did give him a piece of paper that was $1 million bill I picked up at a church. But he passed away 2 years ago. He was the man that really was my encourager. I think I heard someone here mention they have a podcast or platform around encouraging words, and that was him in my life. So I had that in me. There was no one in my family that was an entrepreneur until I dug deeper. When I became an entrepreneur, I found this out, that all four of my great grandfathers were business owners. And I never knew. I didn't really know any of my great grandfathers. They all passed before I was born. I didn't know so I had this heritage, didn't know it. I was groomed pretty much from a white collar family. So college, but there was always that in there. And then I remember having ideas in college, like, oh, I could do this. What if I could do that? And then in my first 2 years of working at GE and starting to feel some of those hardships and the debt coming on from college, the need for something bigger or different, or I can't do this the rest of my life, started creeping in. Like that honeymoon phase was ending. And of all things, I was approached by the Amway business. Good friend of mine from college. And I just felt, I just completely I was just so allured, and the dream, like the idea of freedom. And I was like, wow, this is possible. I saw people that were accomplishing. And then that's where the second part of your question, the development happened in those 3 to 5 years of just grinding. I hated reading books. Sorry if you're an author, book
There's
writer,
several of us on here. You just offended half of us. Thanks, Ken. No, just kidding.
So if that's you, and that was me, you do enough engineering books in college, you'll never want to read one again. I promise you.
Yeah. Well, engineering books, I don't know that any of us on here write those.
So that was a big shock when I was told I needed to start reading books if I wanted to grow as an entrepreneur. And I did. And I saw that it made significant changes for me. My confidence, I was very, very shy, extremely introverted, could not talk to people. And I started reading books like How to Win Friends. Like, why do I want to read this? I don't want to win any friends. Read it. It'll help you. Skill with People, How to Have Confidence and Power in Dealing with People, The Friendship Factor, all these books these Og Mandino books that make me cry. All these books, I'm like, wow, this world is out there. So that really started to move me. And then just getting out there and taking action and getting a dream. So the answer was yes and yes. And this is something that we put into our kids as soon as possible.
Oh, yeah. Well, even just the fact that they're growing up in the culture of your household, the way you structure things, that's obviously going to have an impact on them. Plus, I have a question about this I'm going to ask in a little bit, but that whole trip to Florida where you guys were able to just basically uproot and do something, that's not common. That is not a common thing to be able to do that. So I do have a question about that, but I'm going to save that for a minute because I want to ask something else first. I've often heard that it was said that the fastest path to an above average income is running a service-based business. That if you would like to truly get to a spot where, your income is above average or above what a typical employer is willing to pay you, that the fastest path to do that, and all my reading and all my listening, it always comes back to some form of service-based business. So do you agree with that statement, or do you see it differently, or what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I totally agree with that. And I could even see it at the micro level. This past weekend, my wife and I took our kids to a children's business fair. And every one of them was doing a product business, and they were crafty. And my daughter was making greeting cards and she sold them. But here's what was fascinating. Here's the answer. I think this goes back to the question, is that she invested $50 in supplies. And then she ended up doing amazing. She sold like 2 cards for $5. And I think she sold 11 sets. So her total take was $55. And so when her brother asked her how she did, well, I made $5. And she's like, oh, that's not a great day. But think about it. She had to overcome that inertia of $50 invested before she could earn. So you have to go, you always have in a product-based business, there's always some amount of overhead you're going to have to overcome before you can start making profit. Now, in some service businesses, like you go out, you need to do excavation. You're probably going to have some of that as well because you go buy a big machine. But there are so many service companies like in one of the groups I run. I mean, we had Bella Vasta come on, and she's a pet sitter, a pet sitting dog walking business. And she has a 7-figure company, and she's helped other dog walkers and pet sitters create 6+ figure companies. Like you're walking dogs, it's that much money. Yeah. There's not really any overhead. You don't even have to supply the leash. You just got to show up. Cleaning a house. One of my earlier podcast episodes was how to start your own solo cleaning business. And I think my number was like $1,000 tops. You can be in someone's house or in an office cleaning for the potential of $1,000+ a month. So it's very, very low cost of entry. Products are can also be low cost of entry, but you have to overcome that inertia, that moment, that overhead. But with that, there's a problem. Here's a downside to your question. Because service-based businesses are easier and easier to profit in, it also brings in a lot of riffraff. It brings in, example, my industry. I love my industry. We had 30 to 40,000 new businesses entering the market every year. There is a neat path, a neat chart. I see it like boom, 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 steadily increasing, ups and downs and, in the cycles of business. And okay, but COVID happens and everyone's like, oh, cleaning's big. We need to have good disinfecting and cleaning. Phew. Now it's 70,000. It's more than doubled. And I'm like, well, I need to use my podcast as an educator. I feel compelled, burdened. I need to teach business owner mindset and leadership because so many are coming in without a proper mindset going into a business, a service-based business. So yes, it's the fastest path to profit if you have a business owner's mindset and you've read those books that we were just talking about. If you don't have a business owner mindset, if you don't have a platform builder's mindset going into even your own platform, I mean, you're gonna probably
you're not gonna succeed. Probably
you're gonna be frustrated.
Okay.
Yes, so that would be yes and no, I guess we'll say.
Okay, so now I want to build on my question there and ask this because we're not just talking about service-based business in our discussion tonight. This is platform launchers, right? So obviously there's a tie-in here with platforms. And so what I want to know is what prompted you to also delve into the world of developing a message-based online platform? Because you already had the service-based business. It was doing well. You're already building an income. You had your schedule figured out so that, a couple days a week was sufficient for you to, manage the finances of your household and provide for your family's needs, right? And you have more kids than most people have. You have me beat by one, right? And yet there was something in you that said, I also want to develop a message-based online platform. So tell us how you got into that and how you've married the two, the service-based business and the platform.
Okay, this is a loaded question. I have to actually go back to something I said before about not liking to read books ever again. So I actually did redeem myself, and I started a platform in 2010, and it created a book. So I wrote a book from 2010 to 2015.
All right. So for those that are listening and can't see that, the book's called Arctic Land by Ken Carfagno. All right.
So this was something that I wanted to have my first platform. And it started, and I'm going to come back to the cleaning part because there's a definite tie-in. I was cleaning, and that income you referred to, it was a living wage. It was a full-time income. It was what I made when I was an engineer, but we had a lot of debt and it wasn't really getting us there. I wanted something more, and I was honestly fear of scaling. I didn't want employees. And so how can I carve out the most I can from the solo experience in cleaning? And I got to do something else for income. I felt the pressure, but also the pressure of needing the money also is not a healthy thing for wanting to build a platform, in my opinion. I think when you have the kind of the strength of having a strong first thing that you're doing, and then you can go into the second one and be willing to take risk and make mistakes without needing the money, you're going to be much better off. That's the experience I've had with it. So this book, it was just me. We love stories with the kids. I started making up stories from my oldest son, who was 5 at the time, and here we go. 6 months of this, and I got 20 hours of recorded stories. And dad, turn it into a book. Hey, honey, put that into a book. I'm like, no, I don't know about a book. I don't like reading. I did like reading, but I'm not a writer. I'm not a writer. Along the way, I'm led and I meet some writers that end up mentoring me. Editors show up. I join the SCBWI, Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators. I become a pretty decent writer, and I complete my first book. And I didn't do any 5-year book launch kind of thing. I didn't do any marketing. I was just writing it and Field of Dream style, build it and write it. And it's so cool. It's really a unique concept in the book, but yet no one shows up. And I was really hoping that was going to be the career that got me out of cleaning. I remember joking with my writing mentor. He's like, you'll be able to hang up that mop soon, Ken. I'm like, yes. and that didn't happen. And I was frustrated. And now the book launched in 2015. I started a platform called Dadnamics, where I was starting to write blogs and do videos. And I was being a super goofy dad, thinking, well, I'm going to start generating a group of people that follow me. I'm going to build a platform called Dadnamics. I'm going to tell them about the book. And maybe that's what you do. That'll turn into a YouTube channel and all these. I knew what I was doing. Well, I didn't have a podcast. I was just like mud in the wall, see what sticks. But that heartbeat behind it was, I love doing this stuff. I love helping dads, and I could do this. What if I could get paid to do it? It'd be amazing. Then I could quit cleaning, get all the time back, spend more time with my family. It was like this perfect dream. And then that wasn't really going anywhere. And then you get friends like Vincent Puglisi, like some of you may know Vincent, probably most of you do. And him and
we've had Vincent on as a guest expert several months ago.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So him and I go way back. We met at a conference. We've been to conferences together. It's just, we've been good friends for a while. And I remember he and I had a conversation. It was in late 2016. I was just starting to get onto some of these Facebook groups and like checking them out. And like, I never had cleaning groups on Facebook when I was starting this out in 2005 and 2006. But here they are, they're building up, and there's all these people. How much do you price this for? What do you use to clean this? I'm like, oh dear goodness. Like, seriously, this is what you're asking? Like, I wish I had that back then, and I would answer the questions that were like serious questions, like business strategy and leadership. I was curious, and that kind of stuff was important to me. But I saw a need, like there's some people that really don't know what they're doing in here. And I was sharing that with Vince, and he's like, why don't you start positioning yourself to try and coach them? I'm like, okay, why not? And going back to one of your comments, like the fastest, most profitable thing is what you already know. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to become a cleaning coach or have a cleaning platform, but I had been cleaning for about 13 years at this point. I was pretty good at it. I had carved out a nice little income from it, doing it myself. And I shared my numbers with people, and they're like, wow, how'd you do that? Conversations opened up. Started a group, free group. People joined the group because they watched my comments. I want to hear more about this guy. I didn't have anything to send him to. Just give me a call. Let's talk. I picked up a coaching client, picked up a second one, picked up a third one. Now I'm doing weekly coaching and cleaning of cleaners. Oh, cool. Extra money's coming in. But boy, this weekly coaching thing is getting a little bit boring. I'm getting tired. I feel like I have a job. Like, so much, I don't have to clean, but I got to sit at my desk on a phone for 3 hours. Like, I don't want to do that either. And then so many things are kind of floating around, all these ideas. There's this new concept of mastermind. We're talking early 2017 now, and people are doing courses. Now, John, you were already doing all the stuff back then. You're a pro, but I'm like, wow, this could be something I could do. The mastermind idea sounds good. I wouldn't have to do individual coaching calls. I can get them all at one time and just talk to them. And the courses, I could just record something once and they would just buy it. So I had the shiny objects. Like, I could do all those things. And I just tried a bunch of stuff. And then you fast forward, the course, launched the course, sold a couple, had a couple coaching clients, launched a group later the year after, had 10 or 12 join. Wow, awesome. Grew it to morphed into a different group. And here I am kind of finding my spot along the way. I started a podcast. There's a cool story there. And then what has transpired since starting the podcast is that I really feel that if you were to ask me what my platform is, before I would have said, oh, well, it's for cleaning, I'm doing this and I'm helping, I have a mastermind. I would say now the center of the platform is the podcast. The podcast is the center of the platform. Truly believe that. And everything, as you would teach, John, waterfalls from the podcast. And it just simplifies everything. And now in the past year that we've been actively growing our local cleaning company, I don't have the pressure to go build the side thing, but now the side thing's growing much better, picking up a couple of sponsors, adding more members. I feel like I have a lot more freedom and I could take more risk. I could try things out with the show. It's just, I feel like I've got, nothing holding me down. Like I can fly. So there's a lot there, right?
Oh, totally. Well, let me ask you, which platform elements do you have in place right now?
All right. So we have a podcast.
All right.
We have courses.
Okay. Podcasts, courses. What else?
A membership group.
Okay.
Some affiliates.
You have affiliates. You also have sponsors.
I have sponsors.
Okay. Are you still doing coaching?
I don't currently have a one-on-one coaching right now, but
okay. So you're mainly doing that through the membership then?
Yeah, I don't do one-on-one things. I do workshops. So people will pay me one-offs for workshops. I haven't written any books for this platform, but I certainly could. So those are the elements of the platform.
So yeah, that's at least 6 things if I counted right.
Yeah.
Like you have at least 6 legs to your platform, which is great. And you don't have to give like specific numbers, but as far as a percentage of your income, your platform is a good contributor, isn't it?
I haven't actually calculated it. It's probably a quarter of it.
Okay. So your service-based business is about 75% of your income and your platforms become 25%.
Yeah, probably somewhere around there.
Okay. That's pretty cool. So in our final moments here of this interview, and then we'll go into some Q&A with our members club. I just want to just kind of pick your brain with one last thing. All right. So if someone's listening to the podcast here, or if somebody is in our members club and is thinking about this, and they're thinking about doing a combination of a service-based business and an online platform, what counsel would you give to them? Is there like some summary counsel or some, just really useful advice that you could give for someone that wants to follow the model that you've been following?
I want to tell a story at the podcast movement in Orlando 2019. I was in a room. I had not started my podcast yet. I was doing some of the other elements of the platform. And a man spoke. His name is Brian Orr, and he had a HVAC business, so service business. And he had a podcast, HVAC School. Interesting. He shared the story of how he just wanted to do this podcast because he loved the industry. He knew the industry. And he was just going to teach things that he knew and learned. He never knew if anyone would find it. Well, this built a cult-like following of HVAC people from around the country, around the world. He had his own shirts. People followed him. He had a YouTube channel. He was earning thousands a month on YouTube. He had memberships. And then I heard this too. He said, yeah, I've even had people leave one state, come all the way across the country and come work for me because they found my podcast. So like they loved the podcast so much. They're like, I would want to work for that guy. And I what is going on here? 3 months later, I had Smart Cleaning School, HVAC School, Smart Cleaning School launched. I also at that same time started local networking because we had a first cleaning company in New York. I didn't mention this for New York for 14, 15 years, sold that, moved back to the Philadelphia area, started a new company, really got it started in 2019. So at the time we started the podcast, started the cleaning business as well. The podcast was, okay, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to share what I'm doing as I build my second business. I've been teaching people how to do it. I'm actually going to do it. And that was good counsel from a mastermind in Tennessee, Jennifer. And that was the motivation. But here's what I have found along the way. And this is where your question. I had no idea that being a cleaning podcaster, being a podcaster in general, having a platform, when I'm in these local networking groups. Hi, I'm Ken Carfagno, Carfagno Commercial Cleaning with the C3 experience, all 5 levels of the C3 experience for small professional offices. And I'm the host of the Smart Cleaning School podcast, coaching cleaning companies nationally. People are like, what? I started getting invited because I've been doing Zoom. I've been doing all these aspects of a platform. I can do these Zooms in my sleep. And no one else knew how to during COVID. Let's bring Ken the cleaner on to teach webinars to our Chamber of Commerce. Okay, the podcaster, get him in here. Hey, we need some advice. My expertise in using Zoom and podcasting and all these skills I didn't realize were so valuable. Like within the communities I was a part of online, everyone did it. In platform launchers, you're all doing it. It's no big deal. Put yourself in your community. You will be a purple cow, like Seth Godin says. And I didn't realize how much that would make me stand out and set myself apart as this is a guy. Wow, he has a cleaning company and all this. We need to learn from this guy. I didn't know how much the podcast was going to help my local service business, only because they're the same branding. It's an extension of the other. I also didn't realize how much the local cleaning business was going to help the platform. Because for me to have credibility to run a platform on cleaning, I kind of have to have a credible business in cleaning, which I'm currently doing. And so the like that Venn diagram or that synergy, like the Clydesdale horse thing, right? You've got one horse, it pulls a 5,000-pound load. You put 2 together. No, it's not 10,000. It hitches about 25,000, I believe is what the numbers are. But when I did these 2 side by side, I don't know how much faster this allowed me to grow the know, like, and trust ability of me as a local business person. But for sure, having this, the building of the platform for those couple of years prior to starting a cleaning business and having all the podcasts and stuff in place, that accelerated the growth of my local service business. And it still is today. And my interviews for cleaning team members, they have to listen to 2 of my podcasts because they talk about our company core values, mission, and vision. They can't even get to an interview without listening to multiple podcasts. And they're like, cleaning company has a pod. I have people say to me, yeah, I listen to podcasts. I was actually shocked there was a podcast for cleaning. And that has been such a pleasant surprise. And again, it works both ways. So that advice would be, if you're doing something successfully right now, there's fruit on that tree. And the platform, if you're reaching for a platform like I did, make sure that you go all in on that platform that you're reaching for. I'm going to come back to this someday. But when I was already doing cleaning, it was not a far reach. I was already an expert. I've been doing it for 15 years. I was already credible. So for me to start something, it was just an extension, like just a little veer. And now they work together with like a symbiotic relationship. So the advice, I think my overall advice would be, acres of diamonds, is that your riches are right there, in your backyard. What you're already doing, you're already equipped for the things that you're going to be called to do. So find those skills that you're already great at and develop your platform right from there. And if it happens to be very similar to if you're in a service business, if they're very similar, that's going to be much better than you think.
Nice. Yeah, that's, and, even as you're describing, some of the things that you've been doing there, it's obvious that the platform that you developed, it basically added an extra layer of authority to what you were doing in your other business. It just made you an even more credible individual to many people. But this was great, Ken. Thank you so much for being a guest on Platform Launchers. In just a second, we're going to transition to some Q&A with our members club. So to our podcast audience, thank you so much for joining us today. We're grateful to have you. If you are not a member of Platform Launchers yet, we'd encourage you to take a 2-week test drive. You can do that for free at platformlaunchers.com. You could access the full hour-long video of our training calls and the whole training vault. It's actually getting rather full with a whole bunch of things. And you get to join our forums and you get to join our live calls, but you can try it for free for a couple of weeks if you'd like. And that's at platformlaunchers.com. And if you want to follow up with Ken Carfagno, our guest expert this week, I know you could go to smartcleaningschool.com. And Ken, is there any other ways that you'd like people to follow up with you or connect with you if they desire to do so?
Oh, definitely. Number one, go to the podcast, Smart Cleaning School podcast. And if you want to see what the cleaning company is, just go to c3xnow.com.
All right, c3xnow.com. All right, podcast listeners, we'll catch you next week, and we look forward to talking to you then.